Welcome and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Evidently You're Unaware. I am your host, Andrea, also known as the Successful Diva. I am excited, elated beyond measure to be a part of this moment, this time, and bringing the information that is to come forth to you. Evidently, You're Unaware is a platform designed and dedicated to shining light on a variety of issues, topics, circumstances, and people who influence our lives. The information to be brought forth is designed to make you think. I want thought provoking, relevant discussions happening in your circles if they are not happening already, because these are the things that impact our lives. And I love to discuss the things that will help you elevate and bring better into any situation that you are a part of. So let's just not have information coming into your peripheral view. Let's make sure they're right in your central vision, because that is where things happen and that's where circumstances have the most impact. Let's get smarter. Unity, UNITY. What does it mean to be unified? Unity implies being together or at one with something or someone. In short, it is the opposite of being divided. If you are like me, you may be wondering, how can anyone be unified on anything, considering so many people have substantial differences of opinion and are unafraid to express those differences. But no matter how different we might be on other causes, issues, topics, opinions, all of it, there are some things that we can unify on. And one of them, I think, that we can agree that we can stay unified on is we have a choice. We have a choice on how, on whom, with whom, for what that we spend our money on. I believe that you can agree with me in unity that I can choose what I do with mine, like you can choose what you do with yours, although what we do with it may still be different, but the fact remains, it is still our choice. So, aligning those financial resources around common good and causes that align with our personal values, morals, and ethics, that may be a little daunting, because a company or brand that places their motto, if you will, on a website may not tell you exactly everything that they stand for. They want you to believe this is what they stand for. However, the question becomes, well, what do they stand for, and do they put their money in places that align with what you stand for? And good news for you and I, maybe bad news for companies and brands, I don't know, but it is this: there is someone that does do the research, and I look forward to sharing that company with you here today. Goods Unite Us is that company. But before I share more about its mission, the information they have compiled for your awareness, I'd be remiss if I did not mention a few of the more recent consumer economic blackouts, or company boycotts, if you will, that different groups have organized and put together in an effort to remind companies that they do not belong to only the elite. So you may have seen recently these dates, consumer economic blackout dates. They are ultimately designed to really make us aware that there are things happening in our United States that many people do not agree with. USA Today reported on the woes of a growing number of companies like Target, which have retreated on DEI commitments. As those efforts came under scrutiny, people became more aware of what they were doing, and thus caused kind of a negative reaction. People were outraged. USA also reported that by David Primo, a professor of political science and business administration at the University of Rochester in New York. He said companies need to figure out what they will take positions on, what they won't take positions on, and then stand firm. Holding your finger to the political winds is not an effective way to run a company in a polarized world. What does that mean? It means that when the person who gained the title of the 47th president of the United States started focusing and putting efforts in just this one case, the DEI area, people became outraged. Companies became targets. They felt as if they had to respond, and the people began to respond as well. And so what you saw on the screen were those things that formed consumer economic blackouts. What did they do? Those blackouts and boycotts have, in essence, unified people across the country to make it known that we have a choice where our money is spent. So, what is Goods Unite Us? What do they do? And how can we become more aware? So let me share a little bit of insight. Goods Unite Us is a nonpartisan organization launched in 2017 to help consumers determine whether their everyday purchases align with their politics. The company's mission is to empower people to become political consumers and investors so that we can collectively end corporate political donations. Corporations earn profits from everyday purchases. I'm going to say that again. Corporations earn profits from everyday purchases, and some of those profits are then donated, and those donations may go to politicians or causes that you may or may not agree with. And so Goods Unite Us assembled a research team that certifies the data, shows us what percentage the company, its affiliates, its senior management, and executives collectively donate to, get this, Republicans and Democrats. So what percentage comes from the company itself? What percentage comes from employees? And who are the top politicians getting those donations? Goods Unite Us is the platform for such information. Goods Unite Us gives each brand or company what's called a CFR score, or Campaign Finance Reform score. The scale is -100 to +100. The higher the score, the more likely your purchases from the company or brand will lead to meaningful campaign finance reform. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. The higher the score, the more likely your purchase and their subsequent donation that it will lead to meaningful campaign finance reform. And on their website, they explicitly express that if enough citizens shop and invest using their data, more corporations will be incentivized to get out of politics or to support those causes that matter to its citizens. So let's take a look. What is Goods Unite Us? What do they do? How do they help us? And more. One of the things I'm going to start by doing is sharing with you that the app is free. It's designed for individual use, and ultimately you can choose to research brands and companies that you support or that you think that you're thinking about supporting. You want to kind of know where they stand before you do so. So here you are, right on the front page, the Blue Handbook on how to fight back with your dollars. That is what Goods Unite Us says they are. They are a blue handbook. It's literally your guide on how to fight back with your dollars. I won't take the time. There's much to do here on this site. It's a pretty simple site, but it gives you insight into the things that I've been speaking of here. And that is, how do companies that you spend money with align with some of the views? And in this case, a political view. We are in a political climate. And I know there are things that people say to me when I want to share something about a politician or just have a discussion about it. And they, well, Andrea, I don't do politics. And my response always is to people when that statement comes is, you might not do politics, but let me assure you, politics do you. Every aspect of our lives is impacted, and our decisions have to also reflect how we want to see our lives go forth. So, simple statement here on the site. I'm going to search for a brand. This is how the site works, or the app. I'm going to put in something simple, Outback Steakhouse. You'll see the information appear. They've done the research. I'll come back to this claim up top, but let me share with you the information that comes on your app or on your desktop or website if you're looking straight through the URL on your laptop. The donation distribution is here. And what this simply in red and blue, no pun intended, is that 17% of their donations are distributed to Democrats or democratically aligned causes. The opposite is 83% Republican or Republican aligned causes. Here's that campaign finance reform that I spoke of. Here's the score. They are a negative 73. Now, just reflect back. I just shared the higher the score, the more likely your purchases will go to meaningful campaign finance reform. Negative 73 is closest to the lowest end of this scale in the not so good direction. So negative 73 is their score. And based on their donation breakdown, 88% comes from the company and then another 12% from its senior employees. You'll also find over here the top 5 individuals who have recently received donations from Outback Steakhouse. Their names are here. If you're listening and these are your representatives and you do not support them or Outback Steakhouse, you need to know that they are getting money accordingly in some way, shape, or form, in some amount from Outback Steakhouse. Here's a good thing about it, at least I think it is, or maybe it's not to those who might lose business, but the research team also gives you alternative brands. And so what that means is if you're going to discontinue patronizing this particular establishment, here are some alternatives. Now, I realize that all of these may not be in your respective location where you reside. So if you don't see a recommendation here in your respective city, what do? You go right back up to this search bar here, search for a brand, and you put who you think might be a good alternative if you do decide to discontinue your support at this particular Outback Steakhouse. Again, this is being used as an example, but it's right on their site there. So again, red, blue. If you see green, I'm going to do one more example here. I think I've looked up before, and it's actually gray. But what this simply means is, look, they're at the top of the brand. They are very neutral, meaning they don't give more or less to either side of the aisle, but very highly recommended that you support them because their campaign finance score is 100, which means if you support them, there's a great chance that their donation to anyone is going to go to meaningful campaign reform. Should you decide to get the free app or you sign up to receive notification from Goods Unite Us, you'll have an opportunity to leave reviews, as you can see here at the bottom. Then also, I'll come back to the top. Outback Steakhouse has not yet claimed the page, but when they do, if you're signed up to receive notification and they join Goods Unite Us, you can speak directly to the company about their political actions and or beliefs. So if that's something that gets you going, feel free to do that. Goods Unite Us gives you the platform to do so. And if for some reason you do not, like no data, there are companies that no research has been done at all, you'll want to notify Goods Unite Us and say, hey, I'd love to hear more about what this company stands for and how they distribute their percentages of donations accordingly, and Goods Unite Us will notify you if you sign up. So I hope, I'm going to do one more before we close. I'm just going to put one in, another familiar establishment, Olive Garden. Now you'll see them here in gray. Remember, gray and green kind of typically means good, I guess. But here they are just about evenly split. So you can kind of go with the presumption that Olive Garden, depending on what their values may be or what their senior company and management may look at, they want to follow those who may be looking at particular issues in the moment, but they evenly distribute between Democrat, Republican, or democratically aligned causes or Republican aligned causes. And then here are, this is not really a top 4, but they list the top 5. It's a top 5, but it's not top 5. Sorry about that. But they list the top 4 people who they have recently donated to. So here's their campaign finance reform score, a little bit better than the brand Outback that I just shared previously, but there it is. And here's their split of company and senior employees. And once again, here are their alternative brand recommendations. So you don't see one in your city, search for it, see what you got, and see how you will move from there. So I hope that you are more aware, I should say, of what's happening in your area and in the things that you can put your money towards. This is just one of them. I know there are many of you looking for ways. You're wondering, what can I do? How do I do it? What can I do that's safe? There are a lot of opinions out there. I do want you to do your research on all that you decide to participate in, because here's the deal. We are living in a different day, in a different age. And I know that we all want the best, not only for ourselves. I choose to believe we want the best. I know some of the decisions that are being made may not seem as if people want the best, but you have to choose to believe that good still exists. And that is what I choose to believe. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Evidently You're Aware. Remember, it is unsafe. It's not safe. It's not acceptable either for people to live in ignorance. The decisions that we make must be ones that we can not only live with, but knowing that they will impact individual lives as well as lives collectively. I hope that this information has elevated your awareness and your consciousness that you do have power. Because remember, there are elections, they have consequences. However, they only occur periodically in any one given year. And so it is up to us to do our due diligence. Have to make. So that means we have to be a little more sagacious as a consumer to make those decisions when determining where and who and on whom we spend our money. Because here's the deal, no matter the frequency of elections, you can vote every single day with your wallet. Don't forget, I am looking forward to hearing from you. So comment if you know of another opportunity or a site or an app that does what I've shown here today. Goods unite us. Please share. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Ultimately, you can find me at Evidently You're Unaware. You also can follow me, Andrea, on Blue Sky at thesuccessfuldiva.bsky.social.
You're Unaware is a platform dedicated to shining light upon various issues, topics, circumstances, and people who influence our lives. The information provided should not be considered advice for legal, health, investments, or the endorsement of an individual or group. Neither the host nor the guest of Evidently You're Unaware is responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from using the information shared within this podcast. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Evidently You're Unaware.